What's up, guys? Thanks for coming to Gaming Canada with me. I've got a ton of homebrew news to get you caught up on, so please get ready for
This Week in Homebrew.
Number 2. To start us off, we're over on the 3ds.guide under Ntr Boot, and you can see they've added 2 new methods for flashing Ntr Boot onto your R4i Gold or your AceCart 2i flash carts. There is a few restrictions regarding firmware and devices, but R4i Gold users can pretty much rejoice because you can now use a 3DS, just one of them, a single system, stock and unhacked, to flash Ntr Boot onto your R4i Gold on any firmware. Less than or equal to 11.5 it says, so that means you can use this on any system right now. If you have a brand new 3DS and you happen to have an R4i Gold, you can go ahead and use that stock unhacked 3DS to flash Ntr Boot onto your flash cart. And then you can use that flash cart and a magnet to hack your 3DS, and you'd have Luma custom firmware and Boot 9 strap in absolutely no time. You can see Nintendo blocked the AceCart 2i after version 4.3 of the Nintendo 3DS firmware. So any version that is higher than 4.3, the AceCart 2i is not going to work on your stock unhacked 3DS. So if that's not good for you, if you happen to have an AceCart 2i, there is still some other options. You can still use the 3DS multi-system method if you can get your hands on a custom firmware 3DS. There's also the method I talked about the other day, which is using a Nintendo DS or a Nintendo DS Lite that's compatible with your flash cart. And this is the newest one that I don't think anyone has even talked about yet, and it's now possible to flash Ntr Boot with a DSi. Now, the only thing about this is we have a similar firmware restriction as up here. Let's go ahead and open it up. You can see the R4i Gold only works on 1.4.5 or lower, and the AceCart 2i works on 1.4.4 or lower. So if you have a DSi that is on a higher version than that, then you're a little bit out of luck, but you might have an old DSi laying around on an older firmware, and you could go ahead and flash your flash cart with Ntr Boot and go ahead and hack your 3DS. I think that is pretty cool. That is some big advancements really quick with Ntr Boot hacks, whereas it seemed like it wasn't coming out for a long time. Now it's just release, release, release. And we're going to have every single 3DS unbricked and custom firmwared in absolutely no time. We're over here on Mr. NBAYo's Twitter, and this is going to be some great news for anyone that's trying to get homebrew on 11.4 or 11.5. As you can see here, Mr. NBAYo confirmed my suspicions and said that the exploit does work on old 3DS and 2DS, just currently there's no payload. So that is essentially what I said on the last video about it. And as you can see here, if we jump over to Smee's Twitter account, then you can see he was just streaming, and old 3DS and 2DS payloads for 11.4 and 11.5 are in the works right now. So you guys that are on 11.4, 11.5 and you want that homebrew and you're on the old 3DS, don't worry, it's going to be coming really soon. Make sure you guys get that RPG Fez player so that you can get RPGhax when Mr. NBAYo does release it. He's been working super hard on it. As you can see over here, he managed to get the European version to upload the exploit and then download it, and it worked for him. So basically, I think we're going to be using the level sharing feature of RPG Fez Maker to go ahead and share this exploit. So hopefully Nintendo doesn't get an ear of that too quickly. And if we keep going on, you can see he's managed to work on the USA version now, and it seems to work, although it's a little bit less stable. And then last but not least, he said it was time to pwn the Japanese version. And then 3 hours later, it took him a little bit longer, but the Japanese version has now fallen. So now it just needs a little bit of testing, a little bit of refining, and it seems like RPGhax and possibly some old 3DS payloads are going to be out around the same time. Fairly cool. I hope you guys are ready for that. Up next is an update to my program KitKat Touch that I forked from Pragma's KitKat. Now you can see here, it's now called KitKat Slim, And I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit about this in the next couple of days, but I just thought I'd throw it up here in case you wanted to download it. I basically made it super slimmed out, and it doesn't have any of the input redirection built-in features that it used to have. I'll show you here. If I go ahead and open it, I've made it a lot smaller. It's kind of just a little tiny box now. It only has the connect button, the memory patch button, and then it also has an enable Rosalina gamepad. So because of Luma 8.0 and higher now having input redirection client built in, there's this amazing new release called Input Redirection Client QT, another mod, and there is a million friggin' little configurations that you can do inside Input Redirection Client QT, as well as it already having a built-in opacity slider for the touchscreen. So you can see another mod is basically everything that I wanted KitKat to be. So basically I just turned KitKat into an NTR streaming program. You can connect your video now and stream your new 3DS. You can use this for your old 3DS. There's some pretty cool stuff in here, such as using your right stick as a D-pad so that it emulates the camera controls in Monster Hunter. And it also has right stick as smash, so you can have smash attacks when you're playing Super Smash Bros. And yeah, so basically if you close Edit KitKat, it'll automatically close Input Redirection Client as well as NTR Viewer if you were streaming with it. So that is KitKat Slim. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to use it. Up next is a couple of cool things for Animal Crossing fans. RyDog has released a new version of his cheat plugin, and as you can see, the 4.0 beta 1 is now officially out. And if you scroll down here, you can see it's got a bunch of new cheats. You can catalog the pockets, walk through walls is smoother, pick up buried items, view buried items. Text to item now has its own keyboard. A ton of cool little features. I'm actually thinking about making a video on this specific plugin. I don't do a lot of modding or cheating or anything like that, but I really like Animal Crossing, and it's definitely a game where I can't hurt anyone else by modding it myself. The other cool thing for Animal Crossing fans is a tutorial that popped up over on GBA Temp for making custom furniture in Animal Crossing New Leaf. Now, the creator of this tutorial said that you could potentially do this to edit textures in other games, and I think that is pretty interesting. As you can see here, I'll scroll down. This is the starting product, a little WiiU stand, and as you edit it, go ahead and import some Switch stuff, and the next thing you know, you've got a little Nintendo Switch stand. I think this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and I'm really excited to try to mess around with this. I hope I can get it working, and heck, there might even be a tutorial for this as well. So watch out for that in the near future. Up next is a program released by Joel16 called 3DS Tool, and essentially it's a program for backing up, restoring, and wiping sensitive data. Now, what's cool about this is it has a feature of one of his other programs he made the other day, which had the ability to restore your local friend code seed strictly from your 3DS's memory. So you don't even have to have your local friend code seed backed up. Now, there isn't a ton of reasons why you'd want to restore your local friend code seed unless, say, you were using a public friend code seed and it got banned and for some reason you wanted to switch back to the original one that was on your 3DS. So you could go ahead and use this to do that if you didn't have a backup. You can also wipe temporary titles, expired titles, TWL titles, the config, as well as a pretty useful one, the parental controls. So you could go ahead and wipe the parental controls in case those randomly got stuck on. Fairly useful feature, I do believe. So that is a simple little program there. You can maybe check that out if you want. Obviously there'll be a link in the description. Up next is a little update to Retroarch. There was actually two back-to-back. The creators saw that the Nintendo cores were all randomly running at half speed. They seemed to have some sort of rewind feature enabled by accident all the time, and everything was running at half speed. So they pumped out this update really quick. If you happen to use Retroarch, you might want to update. Last but certainly not least is one of my favorite new programs, NK Streamer, and Namcats has just been working on this like crazy. As you can see, 5.7 has now been released. I'm definitely going to be having a tutorial on it this week since it now works absolutely amazing and it's a really cool program and I really want to show you guys it. So if you don't know, NK Streamer is the program that I used to play Breath of the Wild on my 3DS. If you haven't seen that video, go down to the description and check that out. I'm going to be putting out a new sort of demo when I do use this version right here, but it will be paired with a tutorial, so watch out for that, guys. I feel like we need to learn a little bit about the Wii U because some very big stuff happened this week. To start us off with the Wiiu Updates, we're over here on my YouTube page where you can see we broke 5,000 subscribers today, and we actually broke it by 70. That's absolutely crazy. So 70 subscribers in one day. Now the whole reason for this happening is because of these two videos I put out, installing HaxChi on firmware 5.5.1 and also installing HaxChi on Wiiu's on firmware 5.5.2. So anyone that happened to update to 5.5.2 and you didn't hear the news yet, a new exploit, sleepy.ovh, has now been released, and it is a web exploit that works on Wiiu's on firmware 5.5.2. Now I've created a little tutorial here. If you're on 5.5.2, you can use this tutorial to get yourself HaxChi, and you will essentially have permanent custom firmware always accessible without an internet connection. So if you're very interested in that, which I know you are, make sure you click that link in the description and go and get yourself HaxChi. The only thing is you're going to have to purchase a legit DS Virtual Console game, and it's going to cost you just under $10. There is no other way to do it. Please don't ask me about it. Up next is another Savemii mod update. Now this one has the ability to back up between user accounts. So you could go ahead and put saves from one Mii to another Mii, which was something that I always wanted to do as I started playing games on one Mii, and then I used another one as my main WiiU account, and I haven't been able to get the save off of it and moved it over to my account that I use now. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do that with this new Savemii mod. I'm going to go ahead and make a tutorial about this week, so you guys are going to be seeing how to back up saves on the Wii U as well as restore them. Up next is a little thread over on Reddit about using game mods on 5.5.2 via the Homebrew launcher. So if you happen to install HaxChi and you want to play game mods without trying to use the web exploit, since the web exploit isn't very stable at the moment, although it's working quite well for some people, I must say. This thread explains that while you use SD Caffeine to load mods using Loadine, so using the web browser on 5.5.1, SD Caffeine would load its mods from here. But as you can see here, if you're using the SD card version, then SD Caffeine would put the mods in a slightly different folder, and maybe that's why some people's mods aren't working. So I don't really use any mods, and I haven't been able to test this yet. But if you're on 5.5.2, you could maybe use this little thread here to potentially get your mods going. Now you can read right here, it says, SD Caffeine only works with titles that allow access to the SD card, games like Smash Bros. But if you wanted to use it with any game, you'd need a specific version of Mocha to run before running it. So you'd have to run this special version of Mocha custom firmware right here, and then run SD Caffeine from the Homebrew launcher, and hopefully it would work. I hope that might help somebody out. I was getting a bunch of questions about using mods on 5.5.2. I don't think there's a definitive way to do it yet, but that's a fairly good method right there. Last but not least, on the Wii U side of things is not specifically an update. It was more just I want to inform you guys that Joff Nerd's Breath of the Wild trainer has not been updated in a little bit, and since Nintendo has updated Zelda and it's broken the trainer. If you've already updated your game, you can't delete the game and then try to play it. It will keep asking you for the newest update. If you didn't update yet and you have your DNS blocked, then you're fairly safe to go ahead and just launch Zelda. It will try to launch the eShop for the update, and then it will run into an error, and it'll say, do you want to start the game anyway? And this will allow you to keep using the trainer, as it has worked for me. But anyone that has already updated and then tried to delete the update and use the trainer has not been successful. I just wanted to let you guys know, and hopefully it'll get fixed soon. I guess that is it. We're already through this week in Homebrew. I don't have really any tutorials to throw into this video. Nothing got any updates that was mandatory for our 3DSs or our Wii U's. Make sure you go check out the 3ds.guide if you're looking for Ntr Boot Hax information. And make sure you go check out my tutorial for getting Hax Cheat on 5.5.2 Wii U devices.